Hi everyone, my name is Sreshtha Tewari. I am a woman in leadership coach, a wholeness certified strategist, and basically just someone who wants mental freedom for as many people as possible. Welcome to my podcast on life and understanding. I'm happy to have you here. So today I'm talking about 5 things that heartbreak or an unhealthy relationship could have awakened in you. I know heartbreak, being someone who has been hurt really badly, as most of us were, that point in time when you feel like your world has collapsed. Sometimes you feel like the world stops. I remember driving and wondering, why are the clouds still moving when I'm so heartbroken? Heartbreak is something that most of us has been through, whether it may have been a romantic relationship or it could have even been grief. This podcast is more skewed towards the romantic relationship. I can do one on grief later. So we all know when you meet someone and you really click with that person and you begin seeing your future with that person, it's like the cells in your body start to hold love for that person. They start to store it. And because you're feeling so much, it is stored straight throughout your body. And then you start to think of your future with this person. What do you want your life to look like? And then we begin fantasizing about the future, sometimes without even having any conversation with the person, which is important. But this is generally what happens, right? You meet someone, you really love them, you start to think about a future with them, you start to store that love in your body. And when you think about it, the magnitude of love with which you have for someone, especially a romantic partner, there really is no way in words to express that love. You can say I love you, you can say I love you to the stars and back. You can try to draw a demographic in respect of what your love feels like, but in reality, at least for me, there's no real way to communicate the magnitude of love you feel, especially when you fall in love with a person. There are no words. Even spending a lifetime with that person and doing little things for them, you really can't express it. There are no words that can say exactly what you feel. And then when something happens like heartbreak, where maybe you would have expected, maybe not, maybe the person just broke up with you, or there's some external situation that led to your separation or break in the relationship, it is almost as if you feel shock, like your body goes into shock and is like, wait, but I have all of this love and I have all of this emotion, and it's basically nowhere to put it. So before, you were storing it with hope, like throughout your life you would find little pockets of way to express it, but now it has nowhere to go, because it is like the person is basically saying, I don't want your love. And that is one of the most painful things you could ever go through. I totally relate to that. So in that moment of heartbreak, just picture it as all of these feelings have nowhere to go. The home that they thought they were going to crashed and burned, and they're all surfacing in your body, but there's no gesture you can do to express because the home is not there. There's nothing you can say. The person may have cut you off, but those feelings actually birth something else in you. So when you think of a romantic relationship that has ended, first of all, you go through a period of what is like grief, where you try to process what has happened, and you may cry a lot, and it's okay to cry. It is actually better to process it than to kind of sweep it under the rug and move forward without processing it, because it stores in your body, and that's a different conversation. But at that point in time, it's as if everything you had stored comes to the front. So this is the first thing that heartbreak awakens in you, your feelings and your ability to feel. Even before the whole falling in love, it awakens all of that in your body. But the point at which your heartbreak happens is the point at which it all comes up and you recognize it or you are aware of it. And this feeling is something we take for granted, or we are even upset or ashamed by it. But this feeling is actually what helps us process the journey we have been on and what has happened. And this feeling that we take for granted is something that we actually need in order to help us to process. Because if we don't feel this way, then we can't really process what has happened. If it is someone breaks up with you and you continue as normal, it would mean that you wouldn't have learned, or you wouldn't have had the opportunity to understand what that person meant to you. I remember when we were talking about this with my coach, Annie Lalla. She referred to bicentennial man and the robot who all he wanted to do was feel, because if he was able to feel, I believe then he could have understood what was going on. And it's the same thing. So the first thing heartbreak awakens in us or makes us more aware of are our feelings. And I want you to honor that. To honor that you have been on this journey. If it is you are still hurting over someone, or even if it has long passed, but sometimes you feel the relationship should have gone another way, know that this relationship awakened the ability, or just awakened the awareness of the feelings within your body and your ability to feel. And these feelings will then give you messages onto how to proceed with your life. The second one, it awakens a wanting and a curiosity about yourself. So when we think about heartbreak and we think that a relationship has ended, if you're like me, if you're introverted and overthink things, you try to analyze and think of everything that went on in the relationship, what you could have done better. And in this analysis, you begin to be curious about yourself and curious about the things you did and curious about the things you didn't do. And then you start to wonder and find things about yourself. And in this curiosity, you actually start to discover yourself, because these are things that we are not normally curious about. We are not normally curious about how we behave with someone, or what affects us, what makes us angry, what makes us happy. So that curiosity helps you to figure out who you really are. Did I really want to be that person? Let's just say you were someone in the relationship and you were just giving. That may not be who you want to be. You could have just got lost in the relationship. Or maybe it was a relationship where you were always arguing. Then you have the chance to ask, is this what I want my life to be? Arguments. And if I were to go into another relationship, or even if I were to return into that relationship, what could I do differently? And of course, it's a two-part thing, but just looking at yourself, you would start to think of different things you could do and different ways you could have relationships with other persons. That is the second thing it awakens in us, our curiosity about our own self and our own behaviors, what makes us happy and what doesn't make us happy, what we could do differently and what we would keep the same. The third thing that heartbreak awakens is how to find your voice, especially if you are not someone who usually stands up for yourself. Because if you really loved this person, you will find some way to communicate or to tell the person how you really feel or what you really wanted. It would be very difficult. You might pine and labor over it. It would not be something that you would naturally do, but it would help you find that voice to speak to the person if it is you want a relationship with this person, and would help you find your voice to have this conversation, which ordinarily you may not have done. If everything is going good, we usually don't speak up for what we don't like or what we don't want. If everything is going good, we don't really talk about difficult things, because we have no reason to, basically. So that is the other thing I want you to remember, that being in this heartbreaking situation helps you to find your voice, especially with the person who broke your heart. The other thing that heartbreaks awaken is how to stand up for yourself. So this, it may not happen within the same time frame of the heartbreak. It may not happen in a month or 2 months. It may take years. And that is another thing with heartbreak. You know, we watch a movie and in 2 hours everything's solved. If it is an Indian movie, in 3 hours everything's solved. Life is not like that. It takes years to solve things. Like for me, it's 20 years now. I am now understanding things about my life and why they happened. 20 years. So that is something I want to impress upon you as well. We look at movies and TV shows and we see everything solved in a couple hours or a season. Life is not like that. It takes years to process. So going through heartbreak will help you stand up for yourself and may actually help you recognize in another relationship. It doesn't even have to be romantic, but any relationship where you need to stand up for yourself. What it would do is remember a time before that whatever happened and you didn't say anything and you wish you did in your analysis. And eventually you will find your voice to say, no, I don't deserve this and I am not taking this. Or even to be able to stand up to say, I like this and let's compromise. So different things like that. Eventually, it would help you to do the things for yourself that you probably needed to do in that relationship but didn't. The fifth thing heartbreak awakens is different aspects of yourself. So when you think about being in this relationship and then it ending, after you process the heartbreak and the grief of losing that relationship, and this takes a while, this is not the next day. But one of the things we do is we look for something to do that we liked, that maybe we stopped doing, whether it be dancing or yoga or running or bicycling. We try to figure out what are other things we can do to make us happy. And that in itself helps us to develop ourselves, to develop a different aspect of ourselves that maybe we wouldn't have developed if we were still with the person, depending on the person's feelings about it. So in losing this person, you would have gained, or you would come to gain something else that you would not know at the time, but eventually you would start doing, and that would also bring you joy. So what it is actually doing is building your resilience in terms of dealing with heartbreak every time you go through one, in order to really find your whole self, because eventually that is what will happen. You will find who you really are. You will figure out what you really want and what you don't want, and eventually find the person who is the best mate for you, if that is what you are interested in. I like to think of heartbreak as developing muscle, developing emotional muscle. If you think of running a race and then you think of, no, I really want a challenge, let me put some ankle weights on or some wrist weights on and run this race. In the situation with the ankle weights or the wrist weights, we made a conscious decision to make it more difficult in order to build muscle and to challenge ourselves. In this situation with all the weights, when you're just running, you're running to the finish line with all the tools, skills you currently have. So if you think about life like that and relationships like that, romantic relationships, heartbreak is like being in a relationship or being in life with ankle weights on. It feels lower, it hurts, but you are developing your emotional muscle. So I want you to know that if you are going through heartbreak currently, that it's okay. Make sure you process what's going on. But at the end of it, and the end may not be 6 months, it may not be 1 year, it may be 20 or 30 years later, you will one day realize all the muscle and the skill and the resilience that this heartbreak or several heartbreaks were teaching you. So the 5 things we have that heartbreak awakens: how to feel, how to find your voice, how to stand up for yourself. It encourages becoming curious about yourself, and also how to find other things that you love. This is Sreshtha, Purposefully Passionate. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe. If there's a topic you would like me to talk on, let me know. If I can, if I have thoughts on it, I definitely will. And I invite you to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I post workshops and courses there that may interest you, and I would love to meet you one day. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys again soon. Bye.